Anya was 20, slender and resilient, with eyes that held a quiet light even when her stomach twisted with hunger. Each morning, she left the cramped studio she shared with her younger brother, Leo, and walked to the bus stop clutching a nylon bag that held her meager lunch, 2 pieces of bread and a boiled egg. She worked at Summit Grains, a company that packaged flour and lentils. The pay was meager. The work was grueling. But Anya was grateful because it kept Leo in school and their landlord's demands at bay for 1 more month. By the roadside near an old, gnarled oak tree, an elderly woman sat every day. Her coat was threadbare. Her shoes were falling apart. Her skin was as lined and weathered as the bark of the tree she sat under. People called her Tata Amal, though no one knew her real name. Children sometimes snickered when she coughed. Adults would often click their tongues and look away. It was said she had no one. On a Thursday, Anya's bus broke down. She had to walk, and the sun was unseasonably warm. Her stomach was already aching with emptiness. At a market stall, a vendor was scraping the last of a stew from her pot. Anya stopped, swallowing her pride. "Please," her voice trembled. "Can I have what's left? I can pay you later." The woman looked her up and down, then her gaze shifted to Tata Amal, who watched silently from her usual spot. "You want it for yourself?" "No," Anya said, pointing. "For her. She looks weak." The vendor scoffed. "You people and your stories." But she shoved a plastic plate with the leftover rice and stew across the counter. It was the burnt, crusty part from the bottom of the pot, the part most people rejected. To Anya, it looked like a feast. Some young men loitering nearby started to laugh. "Look at the pretty girl begging for scrapings," one shouted. "Get the old woman's number while you're at it," another jeered. Anya's cheeks burned, but she didn't respond. She carried the plate carefully, as if it were fragile. She knelt beside Tata Amal and smiled. "Good morning, Ma. Please, eat." The old woman stared deeply into Anya's eyes, seeing something unshakable there. "What is your name?" she asked, her voice thin but clear. "Anya." The old woman nodded. "A strong name. May the earth remember it." Anya wiped a plastic spoon with a napkin and began to feed her, small spoonful by small spoonful. People passed and stared. Some shook their heads. Some laughed. Anya didn't stop. She fanned the old woman with a piece of cardboard and cleaned the corners of her mouth with the last napkin in her bag. When the old woman finished, she touched Anya's hand. "Child, kindness is a seed. The wind cannot blow it away if you bury it deep." Anya hurried to work, late and weary, but her heart felt strangely light. She did not know that this street woman had once worn silk instead of a faded coat, and her shoes were once fine leather, not broken rubber. She did not know this woman had a son who owned Summit Grains. She did not know the same son would soon stand over her employee file, judge her with a hardened heart, and believe all people were ultimately self-serving. But that was for later. For now, a small kindness had entered the ground. The earth heard it, the sky heard it, and the story began to move. At Summit Grains, the factory floor was a cacophony of humming machines and towering sacks of flour. Mr. Dobbs, the floor supervisor, scowled when he saw Anya. "Late again?" Anya bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir. The bus." "Save it," he snapped. "There's a new story every day. Go to packing line 2. As she moved to her station, her co-workers, Chloe and Maria, exchanged knowing glances. Chloe was always stylish, with manicured nails and new hairstyles every month. She had seen Anya at the market stall. During their break, she leaned back and said loudly, "Not everyone who acts kind has clean motives. Some people do it for attention." Maria laughed. "True. And some people beg for scraps to make people feel sorry for them." Anya heard them but stayed quiet. She ate one slice of bread and saved the egg for later. When the closing bell finally rang, dark clouds were gathering. Anya hurried back to the oak tree. The old woman was still there, fighting a cough. "Take this, Ma," Anya said, pressing the egg into her palm. "Tomorrow I will bring some porridge." The old woman nodded, her eyes glistening. "Go home, child, before the rain." As Anya walked away, the first cold drops began to fall. On another street, a dark sedan pulled up outside the Summit Grain's head office. A tall man with an impassive face stepped out, glanced at the building, and checked his watch. His name was Kale. He had come to instill order, because life had taught him that vulnerability was a liability and that people's smiles often hid an agenda. He did not know that the girl who had just placed an egg in an old woman's hand would soon challenge everything he thought he knew. Kale entered the conference room like a storm front. He wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and a wristwatch that cost more than a year's rent in Anya's building. The manager stood as he entered. He did not smile. "Good morning," said Ms. Evans, the HR manager. "Welcome back, sir." Kale gave a single nod. "Let's be clear. Our numbers are slipping. There are inefficiencies everywhere. Too many exceptions, too much sentiment. From today, we run a tight ship. No excuses." They went through files, reports, and staff lists. When Mr. Dobbs's unit came up, Kale noticed a note: "Anya, often late but hardworking. Supports family." He frowned. "Late is late. If the shift starts at 8, you're here at 8. I don't care about the reasons." Ms. Evans tried to interject gently. "Sir, some of our staff have long commutes. Buses break down. This is the city. Then they should leave earlier." After the meeting, Kale walked through the factory floor. Workers stiffened as he passed. He stopped at line 2. Anya was packing flour, moving quickly and methodically, tying bags and checking weights. A fine dusting of white coated her arms and hairline. She didn't see him at first. When she looked up, her heart stuttered. She wiped her hands on her apron. "Good afternoon, sir." Kale's eyes were like chips of ice. He glanced at the clock on the wall. "You clocked in at 8:22. Why?" Anya swallowed. "The bus, sir." "I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "One more time, and you're out." He turned and walked away. Chloe watched the exchange and smiled coldly. "You see," she whispered to Maria. "He already sees right through her." At lunch, Anya slipped outside, ate half of her porridge, and saved the rest in a small thermos. After work, she ran to the oak tree before the rain returned. She found Tata Amal coughing violently, bent over like a sapling in a strong wind. Anya knelt, rubbing her back until the fit subsided. "Ma, please drink this," she begged, lifting the thermos. "It's warm." The old woman sipped slowly. "Bless you, child." As they sat, a driver in a dark car slowed down, glanced at the pair, and drove off. He had recognized the old woman's eyes. He had seen those eyes in family portraits hanging in a silent, spacious house. He drove faster. He wouldn't tell. Anya reached home exhausted. Leo had warmed some lentils. They ate together, and she told him only small, happy things. She never spoke of the mockery. She never mentioned the boss with the cold eyes. She fell asleep quickly, but before she did, she whispered into her pillow, "Please, keep that old woman safe. And please, let me be brave tomorrow." Far away, Kale stood in his high-rise apartment, the city's lights painting his face in neon. He remembered a different woman, with sharp eyes and a cruel tongue. He remembered how trust had shattered in his own past. He poured a glass of water and drank it with his jaw clenched. "People pretend," he told the silent room. "I won't be fooled again. But the story had already begun to bend its path toward him. The next morning, trouble arrived. Tata Amal was not under the oak tree. Anya's chest tightened. She ran to the nearby stalls. "Please, where is the woman who sits by the tree?" she asked a newspaper vendor. The woman waved a hand. "Don't get involved. She fainted early this morning." A few people carried her to the community clinic down the road. Anya ran. At the clinic, a nurse shook her head. "We've admitted her. She needs tests. Who is going to pay?" Anya opened her purse. It held her bus fare and part of the rent money she had been scraping together. Her hands shook as she counted out some notes and handed them over. "Please, start with this. I will find the rest." The nurse looked at her with pity. "It's not enough." Anya nodded, her mind racing. She had sold her only piece of jewelry, a small silver chain, months ago. There was nothing left to sell. Her eyes burned, but she didn't let the tears fall. "Please, let me stay with her," she said. They let her in. Tata Amal lay on a thin cot, wrapped in a worn blanket. Her breathing was shallow. Anya sat beside her and took her hand. "Ma, I'm here." The old woman's eyes fluttered open. "Child. I'm not leaving." Outside, voices echoed from the hallway. Chloe had come to the clinic with a friend to pick up a prescription. When she saw Anya at the bedside, her lips curled. She took a picture, pretending to be texting. "So this is why she's always late," she whispered to her friend. "She's playing nurse to a homeless woman." Her friend giggled. "Maybe the woman will leave her a fortune in her will." Their laughter pricked Anya's skin like needles. She pressed the old woman's hand. "Don't mind them," she said softly. "You're going to be fine." By the afternoon, Anya's phone rang. It was Mr. Dobbs. "Where are you?" "At the clinic, sir." "An old woman." "Save it. If you're not at your station tomorrow morning, don't bother coming back." The line went dead. Anya's throat closed up. She closed her eyes and sent a silent, desperate prayer into the universe. That evening, as she walked to the bus stop to go home and borrow money from a neighbor, the sky opened up. Rain fell in sheets. A dark sedan stopped near the clinic gate. Cale stepped out, speaking tersely into his phone. As he stood under the entrance awning to avoid the downpour, he saw her again. The same girl from line 2, drenched and shivering, clutching her nylon bag. She slipped on the wet pavement, nearly fell, then righted herself and kept walking. He frowned. What is she doing here? He turned to leave but hesitated. Something in her face, the stubborn set of her jaw, the way she carried her weariness without breaking, gave him pause. He did not know a stranger lay inside, a woman who had once held his face in her hands and sung him to sleep. He did not know that the world had conspired to bring his past and his future under the same roof. He shook off the feeling and left. The rain kept falling, washing the streets clean. Anya reached home late, borrowed what little she could, and returned to the clinic in the dark. The nurse accepted the cash. "This will cover tonight," she said. Anya nodded. She sat again by the old woman, humming a lullaby her own mother used to sing, and kept watch until dawn. Cale was at Summit Grains early. He ordered stricter time checks, and the staff gate was locked at 8 a.m. sharp. When Anya arrived, exhausted from her vigil, the gate was closed. She begged the security guard, "Please, just this once." He shook his head. "New orders from the top." Anya stood by the fence, her chest tight. A few workers pointed and whispered. Chloe took another discreet picture and smiled. At 8:30, Cale walked past with Ms. Evans. He saw Anya outside and gestured to the guard. The gate clicked open. Anya hurried in, breathless. "Thank you, sir." Cale's face was unreadable. See HR after your shift. All day, Anya worked as if possessed, pushing aside her fear. During lunch, she slipped back to the clinic, fed Tata Amal some porridge, told her a silly joke, and rushed back just as the break ended. In HR, Ms. Evans's voice was gentle but firm. Anya, I know you're trying, but the new policy is strict. We're issuing a formal warning. One more incident and it will be termination. Anya nodded, tears threatening to spill over. Yes, ma'am. When she came out, Kale was in the corridor speaking with a supplier. He watched her pass, her face pale but resolute. Something pinched in his chest. He ignored it. At closing time, an elderly cleaner spilled a mop bucket near the stairs. Chloe and Maria laughed as the woman slipped and stumbled. Old people should just stay home, Chloe said loudly. Anya immediately went to help the cleaner, ignoring the taunts. She mopped up the water, retrieved the bucket, and steadied the woman until she was safe. Kale stood on a landing above, unseen. He watched how the others mocked and how Anya helped without a hint of performance. It confused him. He had seen countless acts of calculated kindness. This one felt different, and it unsettled the high walls around his heart. That evening, Anya brought bread and tea to the clinic. Tata Amal looked a little stronger and even managed a weak smile. You came back, she whispered. I will always come, Anya said. Tata Amal squeezed her fingers. You remind me of someone I loved, before the world made me hard. She didn't say my son. She didn't say Kale. She only watched the girl's face and allowed a long dormant hope to knock softly on her heart. Outside the clinic, the driver from the dark sedan sat in the rain, arguing with his conscience. He had known since the first day. But the woman's secret was not his to tell. He drove to the corner, then turned back, parked, and sighed. Ma'am, he said to the empty car, what are you doing here? The night wrapped around the clinic like a blanket. Inside, Anya sang softly until Tata Amal fell asleep. Jealousy, once seated, grows quickly. Chloe noticed how Kale's eyes sometimes lingered on Anya a second too long. It infuriated her. She wanted his attention, and she wanted Anya gone. So, she set a trap. On Friday, a small amount of petty cash went missing from Mr. Dobbs's office. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cause a stir. Chloe, who had seen Anya deliver paperwork to Dobbs earlier, quietly slipped the money into Anya's locker during the lunch hour. At 3 p.m., Dobbs announced a locker search. When they opened Anya's, they found the notes. A cold silence fell over the floor. Anya's lips parted in shock. Sir, I don't know how that got there. Dobbs's face was stern. HR. Now. Chloe folded her arms, feigning sadness. This is so disappointing, she said loudly, ensuring the gossip would spread. In the HR office, Ms. Evans looked weary. Anya, this looks very bad. Anya was trembling, but she forced herself to stand straight. Ma'am, I did not take that money. Someone put it there. Kale entered the room without knocking. His gaze moved from the cash to Anya. We have rules for a reason, he said, his voice low and hard. If you're lying, confess now before I call the police. Anya stood her ground. Her shame was afire, but her voice was steady. I did not steal. You can search my home. I may be poor, but I am not a thief. Kale's expression didn't change. He turned to Ms. Evans. Suspend her for 1 week while we review the security footage. If we confirm theft, she's terminated. Anya walked out of the office, her head spinning. Colleagues watched from their doorways. Someone hissed. Someone else stifled a laugh. She moved past them like a ghost and found her way to the clinic. When Tata Amal saw her, she knew immediately something was wrong. Child. Anya knelt, clutching the old woman's hand. Tears finally streamed down her face. They said I stole money. They suspended me. Tata Amal's eyes, clouded with age, suddenly sharpened. She remembered corporate battles, lies, and traps from another lifetime. She closed her wrinkled fingers around Anya's. "Listen to me," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Truth walks slowly, but it always arrives. Keep your head up. Ma, what if they fire me? How will I pay the rent? How will I feed Leo?" The old woman looked at her with a profound, maternal certainty. "The same God who gave you the heart to feed a stranger will not abandon you now." That night, Anya sat by the clinic window, watching the rain streak the glass. She felt small and utterly spent. But beneath the exhaustion, a stubborn ember of hope still glowed. She was not a thief. She would not be broken by a lie. In his apartment, Cale reviewed the security footage on his laptop. He saw Chloe linger near the lockers. The angle was poor, her hand hidden. He saw Anya enter later. He rubbed his temples. "I need a different camera angle," he muttered. He paused, the image of Anya running through the rain flashing in his mind. The same girl now accused of theft. He shook his head. "Don't be a fool," he told himself. "One act doesn't prove innocence." But the foundation of his cynicism had developed a hairline crack. The rain continued for 2 days. On Sunday evening, Anya took an umbrella and hurried to the clinic with a small container of soup a neighbor had grudgingly given her. The wind whipped her umbrella inside out. A car sped through a puddle, splashing her with muddy water. She didn't stop. In the ward, Tata Amal's color was better. When she saw the soup, she smiled. The smell is healing itself. Afterward, as Anya stepped into the corridor to wash the container, a voice spoke behind her. "Why do you do it?" She turned. Cale stood there, rain glistening on his shoulders. "Sir. Why do you care for that woman? She's not your family." Anya looked at the sink, then back at him. "Because someone should. And because one day, I might need someone, too." Cale studied her face. "We're reviewing the cameras. If you're guilty, kindness won't save you." "Then if I am guilty, fire me," she answered, meeting his gaze. "And if I am innocent, clear my name." He gave a single, curt nod and turned to leave. Just then, the lights in the clinic flickered and died. Darkness swallowed the hallway. Nurses called out for the backup generator. A weak, frightened cry came from the ward. Anya rushed back in and found Tata Amal struggling to sit up, groping for her inhaler. Guided by touch, Anya found it, placed it in her hand, and counted the breaths with her until the old woman calmed. Cale stood in the doorway, a nurse's flashlight beam cutting through the dark, illuminating the scene. Something shifted in his eyes. An old memory surfaced, his mother, younger, caring for him during a childhood asthma attack. He shoved the memory down, then turned and walked out into the rain. The generator rumbled to life, and light returned. Tata Amal looked at Anya with a mixture of pride and a growing, urgent worry. The time for truth was approaching. On Monday, due to her suspension, Anya stayed home. She cooked for Leo, left him a note, and went to the clinic early. The nurse smiled when she arrived with fresh bread. "You have a good heart, dear." "I'm only doing what feels right," Anya replied. Inside, Tata Amal was sitting up, a borrowed shawl around her shoulders. They ate and talked in quiet snippets. The old woman offered short, wise proverbs, like placing stepping stones for Anya to cross a river of doubt. "Never fear an honest path," she said, "even when it's steep." "Thank you, Ma," Anya whispered. By noon, the corridor filled with the sound of hurried footsteps and a familiar, impatient voice. Cale walked in with Ms. Evans. The IT review had provided a clearer picture. A hallway camera had caught Chloe's suspicious movements near the lockers. It wasn't irrefutable, but it cast serious doubt. "Ma'am," he began to the nurse, then stopped when he saw Anya and the old woman. He felt as if he were looking into a reflection of a truth he'd long denied. Anya stood up, tense. Kale's eyes moved from her to the old woman and back. He lowered his voice. The camera review suggests you were framed. The investigation is ongoing, but your suspension is lifted, effective immediately. Anya's knees went weak with relief. Thank you, sir. A flicker of something, perhaps a smile, touched Kale's mouth, but it vanished. He turned to go, then paused. The old woman was watching him, her gaze steady and penetrating. For a single, heart-stopping moment, he looked past the shawl and the wrinkles. He saw a pair of eyes he knew. Eyes that had once held his entire world. He blinked, and the moment passed. "Ma'am, good afternoon," he said, his voice rough. "Good afternoon, son," she answered, using the term as any elder would to a younger man. But the word landed on a deep and tender wound. He left quickly, his chest tight with a confusion that felt like vertigo. Outside, he instructed Ms. Evans to draft a memo clearing Anya's name pending the full investigation. Back inside, Tata Amal took Anya's hand. Her palms were warm. "You stood firm," she whispered. "Truth stood with you." Anya smiled through her tears. "I almost fell." "The wind is strong," the old woman said. "But your roots are deep." Anya didn't know she had just passed a test written in a language older than time. She didn't know that the woman she had fed was the mother of the man who held her livelihood in his hands. She didn't know that the old woman's heart was now wrestling with a momentous decision, to remain hidden a little longer, or to let the truth finally emerge.